Hi again. Today I'm going to talk about We Own This City by Justin Fenton. Now, this was a TV drama series which I watched, and it was produced by the same people who brought The Wire, the fantastic 5-part series about Baltimore. And quite a few of the actors from The Wire are in We Own This City drama, notably Jamie Hector, who played Marlon in The Wire. He plays Detective Sean Suter in this series. And you'll see, if you've watched The Wire, you'll see quite a few familiar faces. And the drama is based on the book written by a Baltimore journalist about police corruption. So after I watched the series, which was gripping, I decided to read the book, and it really was a well-made series because it follows the book very, very well. Obviously, there's going to be differences, but the stories told in both media very, very well. So it's mainly the book I want to talk about, but I would recommend the series, and I'll put a link to it. So the main character in the book, or the main culprit, is Wayne Jenkins, and in some ways he appears to be a cop's cop. He served in the Marines with honour, and he was a keen mixed martial arts fighter, and did a lot of training and a lot of fighting, not on a national level, but leadership qualities. Fairly quickly rose to the rank of sergeant, and had a very impressive arrest record, both on patrol and later in some of the plainclothes units that he was assigned to. And ultimately he was the sergeant leading the gun trace task force, which was a plainclothes unit set up to remove guns from the streets of Baltimore. The crime rate, the homicide rate in Baltimore was epic, and they were trying everything they could to try to reduce it, and having police target specifically guns. And the methodology they used, it's explained in the book. When Wayne Jenkins ran the gun trace task force, he changed the methodology, made it more proactive, stopping people on the street with very flimsy probable cause. But he did seize an outstanding number of firearms. So the bosses loved him. He was getting results, and he was held up as a role model. But all the time he was doing this, he was highly corrupt, and he was robbing criminals both of drugs and of cash. And he would stop them on the street, a car stop, for example, or you just pull up onto a corner, search people, and then if he thought they were a likely target, he'd take the house keys and they'd go and raid their home, and then rob whatever valuables were in there as well. So he wasn't doing this on his own, he had accomplices. In one episode, and it's in the book, but it really is shown very, very well in the TV drama. They are in the home of a high-level dealer, and they find a safe. So they go and get a selection of tools, and using a sledgehammer, hooligan tool, etc., manage to lever the door open, and lo and behold, it's full of cash. And they steal about half of it, thousands of dollars, put it in a duffel bag, and then Jenkins tells them to close the lid again, and then to start filming as if they've just managed to crack the door. And they film it, open the door of the safe, and whoa, jackpot, blah, blah, and they go through this whole charade. And he's saying, everyone stand back, don't go near it, call in the evidence technicians and so on, making it look all above board. The other thing he was doing was claiming overtime falsely. They would claim 4 to 6 hours overtime per shift. They wouldn't even start the shift at the time they were supposed to. They'd be doing other things, and then they'd go in for a few hours. He even claimed overtime and was paid it when he was on holiday in the Caribbean. So he really was completely corrupt in every way. Now there was a situation in Baltimore where a chap called Freddie Gray was killed in the back of a police van, and some police were charged, but there were no convictions. And as a result of this, there were riots in the city of Baltimore. It erupted. This was before the George Floyd riots, which went all across America and elsewhere. But they were pretty massive riots in Baltimore. And Wayne Jenkins put himself about in the riots, and it shows it's almost a kind of yin and yang, because he grabbed a vehicle, loaded it up with officers, totally unofficially, drove down to the riot area to reinforce them, and then just off his own bat went off to a chicken store and bought $600 worth of fried chicken and fed the guys on the line out of his own pocket. But at the same time, he's driving around and he sees two guys coming out of a pharmacy that they've robbed with large bin bags full of pills, and he chases them off, but he makes them drop the loot, and he goes round to another accomplice, a civilian who's a bail bondsman, and gives him $1,000 worth of pills and tells him to sell them and to split the proceeds. So he, in some ways, it wasn't a completely bad police officer, but on the balance, everything he was accused of was true. And it really came to light when a Baltimore County, which is the sheriff's department, crew were doing a surveillance on a high-level drug dealer, and they put a tracker on his car. When they went to recover the tracker, they found another tracker next to it, and they took it off, and it wasn't a police issue one. And they managed to run the serial numbers, and they found out that it was owned by a member of one of the plainclothes units. And this excited or aroused their suspicions. And anyway, after a lot of other bits of the puzzle fell into place, the feds became involved, and the main federal agent, Erica Jensen, FBI agent, started putting this whole operation together to target the corruption within Baltimore, and specifically Wayne Jenkins. And they did various forms of surveillance, intercepted phone calls, managed to do technical attack on the cars and get devices into them, and so on, and built up substantial amount of evidence to the point where they managed to turn a couple of the accomplices, and then they put an arrest plan into place. And what they did, because these are police officers and arresting them could be tricky, so they got them to be called into internal affairs, to be to discuss an unrelated, as though they were witnesses to something, a vehicle incident. And the Internal Affairs Office was sterile. They had to hand in the firearms as they went in. And then they were each given a different time, and they were arrested. And the arrests in the TV drama is pretty good, because as Wayne Jenkins steps out of the elevator, he's sworn by an FBI SWAT team. They take him down, and he's saying, I'm a cop. He's arrested. And a couple of them turn straight away and start giving evidence. And the bail bondsman, as soon as they pick him up, he talks like a tape recorder. He just won't stop. In fact, he tells them stuff that they didn't know, leads them to drugs that he had hidden that they didn't know about. And charges ensue. There's quite a lot of interesting things in the book and in the TV drama. For example, it shows that it was very, very difficult to get a jury in Baltimore, because when they do the voir dire, where they question the prospective jury members, they ask them if they believe, have trouble believing the police. And most people who come from Baltimore don't believe the police, so they couldn't get juries. And also the district attorney had a list of officers that they couldn't call. They'd been impeached. They'd already been shown to be liars. So if they were the main arresting officer, then the cases just fell away. So that was the state of the criminal justice system in Baltimore. But anyway, they put these guys up the steps to court. There was Jenkins, another guy, Daniel Herschel, who was really a bully as well as a thief and corrupt, and a couple of other officers. And a couple of the other guys had been brought up in the projects and really were life criminals. They'd been robbing before they joined the police, and they just continued after it. So that really, what was a factor that how do you, apart from people's records, and sometimes the juvenile records are sealed, how do you ensure people are honest? So Jenkins got 25 years, and the others got slightly smaller sentence, 18 years and so on, downwards. I won't give away some of the stuff because there's some surprises in it, but the political ramifications and the ramifications to the high command of the police are pretty jaw-dropping. Now, how do you solve police corruption? It's a very interesting question, because not all police departments are corrupt. Baltimore has got a record of corruption. New York City, Met Police here, CID, institutionally corrupt over a number of years. Cases prove this. And but there's other departments that have very, very little in the way of corruption. Whole departments that are known for being very, very clean departments. And also, even within Baltimore, there were guys who were not corrupt, who were totally honest. And it's shown in the book. There were guys, and what Jenkins and the others would do was test them. They'd give them a hypothetical. What if we found this? What do you think we should do? And there were guys who went, no, that's wrong. The police shouldn't do that. And they were quietly eased out of the unit, which was what used to happen in the Met CID. The guys who do an aideship as a temporary detective constable, and if they didn't go along with the corruption, they were found unsuitable for CID and returned to uniform. And the guys who were tested and found to resist corruption. It was just down to their own inner moral standards. And it's difficult to know how to test for that in a police force, in recruits. How do you test that someone is has inner morals? Now, I know Baltimore and other departments used to do integrity tests. They would put people out there posing as drug dealers and see if they were handled properly. But apart from that, it's very, very hard to ensure that from the mass of the population, who are the honest guys who are going to be your police officers. Yeah. Qui custodiet ipsos custodes is very, very apt. So the book is terrific, and the TV drama is terrific as well. It's an eye-opener. It's It's not a depressing read, but it's a depressing thought that this happens, and you know, the people of Baltimore obviously deserve more, deserve better, and unfortunately they never got it, and as far as I know, they still haven't. So I really do recommend the book.